the ready-to-go milk tea, fruit tea market in China, it's just staggering, isn't it? We're talking billions. And this one company, Chagee, well, their growth has been explosive.
Absolutely explosive. Their GMV, that's the total value of sales, apparently hit over 10 billion yuan last year.
And projected to maybe even double this year. I mean, for anyone looking at public equities, those are numbers that really make you sit up and pay attention.
Definitely. But is it that rare 10-bagger? That's the big question.
Exactly. To figure that out, we need to, dig deep, understand what's actually driving this success and what the roadblocks might be.
Precisely. And this whole freshly made tea thing, it's not just China anymore. It's getting global recognition. So Chagee's rise in such a tough market, well, it demands a closer look.
Right. So in this deep dive, we're going to try and dissect Chagee. Look at their strategies, what's worked so far, the potential hurdles, especially for global growth.
And we'll do it all through that lens of a public equity investor, someone looking for, substantial returns.
Okay. We've been looking at various analyses, comparisons with players like Haiti and the really interesting Cheyenne use.
And their whole growth story.
Yeah. So the mission for you listening in is pretty straightforward. Get a clear handle on Chagee's investment potential, strengths, weaknesses, risks.
And what it might take for them to deliver those really exceptional returns.
Okay, let's start by unpacking where they sit in the market.
Well, Chagee's definitely positioned itself as mid to high end. So your average cup costs quite a bit more than your standard milk tea place.
Which is a bold move in such a crowded market.
It is, and it helps them stand out.
Right.
It's a key differentiator.
And it is crowded. You've got the big names like Haiti. People often see them as the closest comp brand-wise.
Right, and then there's Cheyenne uses, which is fascinating. Far fewer stores, but apparently they make serious profit per store.
Yeah, really impressive. And then there's Tea by Dow. Now, what's interesting is that sources suggest Chagee sees Tea by Dow as their main competitor.
Which is maybe surprising, because Guochao isn't as strong in those top tier 1 cities.
Right. So why do you think Chagee is focused on them, not Haiti, so much?
That's a really good question. I mean, Haiti competes hard on brand image innovation, especially those big cities. But Tea by Dow, their strength is that huge franchise network.
So scale,
Yeah.
especially in lower tier cities.
Exactly. They achieve massive scale, huge sales volume that way. So Chagee looking at Tea by Dow probably means they recognize that long-term market penetration and just efficient operations.
Yeah.
Well, that can be just as critical, maybe more so, than just having a cool brand in Shanghai or Beijing.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like a different kind of battle, overall market share versus maybe premium perception.
Yeah, precisely.
What's also really striking is this big single product strategy they have, their Boujujuan drink.
The Earl Grey milk tea, yeah.
Apparently sold over 100 million cups.
Yeah.
Focusing so much on one hero product, what are the implications of that?
Well, having a massive hit like Boujujuan is incredibly powerful. It builds instant recognition, simplifies your supply chain, lets you focus marketing.
Yeah.
It's their flagship, gets people in the door.
Okay, makes sense.
But there's a flip side. It's risky, right? If tastes change or a competitor comes up with something better, relying too heavily on one thing makes you kind of vulnerable.
So diversification will be key down the line.
Absolutely. We'll need to see how they plan to broaden their successful offerings.
And thinking about competitors again, Cheyenne News has that intense, almost cult-like local following in Changsha, right? People say you have to try it there.
Yeah, very strong local identity.
But Cheyenne News seems to be going for something broader, maybe trying to resonate more with, say, overseas Chinese. Their initial splash in Malaysia, those crazy queues.
Yep.
That seems to point that way.
That seems right. That broader appeal probably comes down to a few things. Maybe their branding, their product innovation taps into preferences that are more universally understood within the diaspora.
Less tied to super specific local culture that might not travel well?
Possibly. And maybe their marketing was just designed with a wider audience in mind right from the start.
Okay, so we're getting a feel for the market dynamics. Let's drill down now. What are the absolute key ingredients that have fueled this rapid success they've had?
Well, you absolutely have to point to their marketing. It's aggressive. Reports say they spend big on social media, like Xiaohongshu, way more than someone like Cheyenne News.
And that visibility today is just critical, isn't it? Especially for grabbing younger people's attention.
It's huge. You need to be seen.
Yeah. And they seem to have a real knack for jumping on trends, creating buzz. Their social media game is apparently very dynamic. Weibo, Douyin, driven by a super young, digitally native team, I hear.
And that agility is paramount in a market moving this fast. It means they can stay relevant, talk directly to customers, pivot quickly when trends pop up.
Like a real-time feedback loop.
Exactly. Much faster than old school methods.
It also sounds like the founder is really hands-on, a strong vision, deeply involved in the creative side, the strategy.
And that can be a massive asset. In consumer brands like this, the founder's passion often really sets the tone for everything. Product, experience, the whole vibe.
And what about getting the product out there? Channel penetration? Apparently they've been pretty good at that, maybe even bringing in talent from FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods.
Ah, interesting. If they brought in people from FMCG, that gives them serious expertise in managing complicated supply chains, optimizing distribution, scaling efficiently.
Stuff that's absolutely crucial if you want to grow that fast.
Totally. It's the nuts and bolts of scaling.
Now, here's something interesting I read. There's this belief inside Chagee that people buy based on needs, not just the lowest price.
Okay.
Which seems to be their justification for charging more, right? As long as the product and the experience meet those needs. What's your take on that kind of value pricing here?
I think that's a pretty sound principle, actually.
Okay.
If they can consistently deliver something people feel is superior or, uniquely hits the spot for a specific need, then yeah, they can command that premium.
It's not just the drink itself.
No, it's the shop's atmosphere, the service, the brand feeling, the whole package.
And they seem to be working hard on building those brand assets. Their content creation is apparently quite strong, hitting both the functional side, like ingredients, but also the emotional connection.
That holistic approach is really important today. A strong brand isn't just the product, it's the story, the feeling. Good content that hits both practical and emotional notes builds much deeper loyalty.
Creates a more compelling identity overall.
Exactly.
Plus, look who they're hiring. Talent from Starbucks, Xiaohongshu. That says a lot about their ambition, doesn't it?
It really does. Attracting people from established players like that brings in skills and experience that can seriously accelerate growth, make things more professional.
And we can't ignore the whole Gufeng thing, that national style using traditional Chinese cultural elements in their branding. How big a factor is that?
That's tapped into something powerful, hasn't it? That sense of national pride, cultural appreciation among Chinese consumers. It gives them a really distinct and appealing identity in the domestic market.
They're also, interestingly, making a point to promote their pure leaf teas, not just the milk and fruit teas.
Which is smart. Broadens their appeal, maybe to more health-conscious folks, and bumps up the quality perception.
And then there are things like strategic partnerships. That involvement of Li Zongwei, the badminton star in Malaysia, that apparently gave them a huge boost there.
Oh yeah, partnerships like that, especially with famous, respected figures, can be invaluable. Instant credibility, market access, especially when you're entering a new country.
Okay, so they've clearly built a really strong base in China. What about taking this global? What's the potential there?
Well, the fact they already are overseas, especially that strong start in Malaysia with those cues we mentioned, that's real proof of concept. It shows the model can work outside mainland China.
And like we touched on, maybe their marketing, their product strategy just has a more universal feel, especially for overseas Chinese communities. Potentially more so than a brand super tied to one specific city's culture.
That seems plausible. Plus, they're not shy about it. They've openly stated they're aiming for global expansion.
How important is just stating that ambition?
It's crucial.
Yeah.
It signals they're thinking ahead, planning for it, building the infrastructure, and this idea of modernizing, globalizing the Eastern tea experience. There could be a big international appetite for that.
And those huge domestic sales numbers, that rapid growth, surely that signals strong underlying traction that could potentially work elsewhere too.
Absolutely. A strong home market performance gives them the financial muscle and proves they can win market share. That looks good to potential international partners and investors.
But it can't all be smooth sailing, right? What are the big challenges they're likely to hit trying to go global?
Well, one thing that comes up is this perception, among some people anyway, of heavy artificial flavoring in some drinks.
Yeah. That could be a hurdle internationally, especially with more health-conscious consumers.
Definitely something they'd need to manage or address. Palates are different everywhere.
And related to that, there's feedback that some drinks feel a bit greasy or heavy. That might limit how often people buy them, especially where lighter drinks are the norm.
Exactly. Preferences for beverage richness vary massively. What feels indulgent in one place might be too much for daily drinking somewhere else. they'll need to adapt formulations.
Okay, product perception is one thing. What about the brand itself? That strong emphasis on Chinese traditional culture. How does that play outside of China and the diaspora?
That is a critical question, isn't it? Their heritage is unique, a selling point, but they need to be smart about how they present it globally. Make it authentic, but also appealing broadly. Maybe focus on universal themes within it.
Rather than super localized references people won't get.
Right. Then there's innovation. This market copies fast. To stay ahead globally, they'll need genuine R&D, a real innovation pipeline, not just following trends.
Because just relying on being first with a trend won't cut it long-term internationally.
No way. You need defensible innovation, unique offerings.
And building the infrastructure for that. A standardized global supply chain R&D systems, like McDonald's or Starbucks have. That feels like a huge, huge task.
It's monumental, getting reliable, scalable sourcing globally, ensuring consistent quality, plus region-specific R&D. That's a massive operational and financial lift.
And we haven't even mentioned just the sheer variety in tea tastes. What people like in China versus, say, Europe or the US. Very different worlds.
Totally different. Tea culture varies enormously. Understanding local tastes, tea types, sweetness, flavors is going to be vital for tailoring the menu right in each market.
And managing all this, the complexity of rapid international growth, keeping the brand experience consistent everywhere, that sounds like a recipe for headaches.
It is. You need really robust management systems, great training, tight quality control across the whole network. It's a big management challenge.
There's also a potential risk, maybe, in relying too much on outside agencies for brand positioning. Could they lack the deep, long-term strategic thinking needed for really nuanced global entry?
That's a fair point. Agencies bring expertise, but you need a strong internal brand team, too, one that truly gets the long-term vision and can adapt it smartly for all these different markets.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you risk inconsistencies or missing the mark culturally.
Okay, so plenty of challenges on the global front, but let's flip back to the strengths. What are the core advantages Chagee has that will likely keep driving growth?
Well, their proven muscle in marketing and social media is a huge asset. They know how to create buzz and connect with people.
That successful big single product, too. It gives them a strong foundation recognition.
Definitely. And their ability to attract good talent suggests they're building a capable team internally.
Plus, that massive established presence in China is a fantastic springboard. And the fact they are talking about global expansion shows ambition and strategic thinking.
Exactly. Strong home base, marketing chops, a hero product, ambition.
Yeah.
Those are key ingredients for potentially making it big globally.
So where might the limits be? What could potentially cap their growth or, from an investor view, their returns?
Well, as we discussed, the taste profile might just not click everywhere. That's a fundamental limit, potentially.
And the risk of being seen as maybe more marketing hype than deep product substance, if they don't keep innovating genuinely.
That's a risk, too. Relying too much on marketing flash without a constant stream of real product innovation could limit long-term appeal in competitive global markets.
Adapting that brand message, the cultural elements for all these diverse markets, if they don't nail that, it could hold them back.
Absolutely. And just the sheer difficulty of scaling quality and consistency globally, especially if they use franchising heavily, though maybe they'll favor direct control, that's a major operational hurdle that could limit how fast or how well they grow.
Right. Those are all serious points. Brand fit, product adaptation, quality at scale, critical things that could define their ceiling.
Yeah, they could fuel growth or really put a cap on it.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the investor perspective. For you, listening in, maybe thinking about Chagee as a potential investment, what specifically could they improve or focus on to really have a shot at becoming that elusive 10-backer?
Well, number one for me would be deepening that commitment to product innovation. Seriously investing in R&D, creating truly unique, globally appealing stuff beyond what they have now. Maybe even proprietary ingredients or methods.
That would give them a real edge, wouldn't it? Make them harder to copy.
Exactly. A significant catalyst for growth and differentiation.
And alongside that, refining the brand strategy specifically for global markets, maybe evolving beyond just the Chinese traditional culture angle to find themes with more universal resonance while still keeping their core identity.
Yeah, a more nuanced global brand story that would let them connect with way more people across different cultures.
Makes sense. And you mentioned supply chain and quality control earlier. Strengthening those globally seems absolutely non-negotiable for long-term trust.
It's fundamental. Consistent quality, safety across potentially thousands of stores globally. You have to nail that to keep customers and protect your reputation, whether it's own systems or incredibly tight partner management.
And building the internal team to handle all this,
Yeah.
enhancing their organizational muscle for global ops, getting managers with real international market experience.
Essential. You need people who understand the local nuances, the regulations, the consumer behavior in all these different places. That's invaluable expertise.
What about growth shortcuts? Could strategic acquisitions or partnerships help? Buying local players or partnering up?
That could definitely fast-track things. Gain market access, local know-how, distribution networks quickly. It can accelerate expansion and reduce some risks.
And maybe shifting focus a bit
Hmm?
from potentially short-term marketing wins to really building a lasting global brand. One with a clear vision, strong values that resonate everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Long-term brand building is about creating those deeper emotional connections, fostering loyalty that lasts longer than the latest marketing campaign.
Could they even look beyond tea? Maybe explore adjacent categories, other beverages, snacks that fit the brand and have global potential.
That's another avenue. Strategic diversification into related areas could open up new revenue and appeal to different consumer needs or occasions, carefully, of course, without losing focus.
And getting smarter with data. A really sophisticated CRM approach to understand all these different international customers and tailor things for them.
Oh, absolutely. Using customer data smartly lets you personalize marketing, tweak products, build stronger relationships. That's critical for keeping customers happy and loyal everywhere.
Adapting the actual stores too, right? The format, the experience, tailoring it to what works locally in different countries.
Yeah, what works in a Tier 1 Chinese city might not be right for a European capital or a suburban U.S. mall.
Hmm.
You need to tailor the retail environment.
And finally, circling back to the product itself, actively listening to that international feedback about artificial notes or heaviness, and actually working to improve it.
Definitely. Showing you're listening and willing to adapt the product based on local feedback is crucial for winning acceptance and building that loyal base in new markets.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up for you, our listener, thinking about this from that public equity angle. Chagee, undeniably impressive growth in China, fueled by savvy marketing, a hit product, and clear global ambition.
They've shown some initial international success, too.
Right, but they face real hurdles, product perception issues, adapting their brand globally, and just the sheer complexity of managing international operations and supply chains.
Key strengths are definitely that marketing power and their strong domestic base.
Potential limits? Maybe the universal appeal of the current taste profile, and perhaps relying too much on marketing without equally deep, ongoing product innovation.
And to really push towards that 10-bagger potential, the big levers seem to be serious product R&D, a smarter global brand strategy, rock-solid supply chains and quality control, and building a truly world-class international management team.
A lot to work on, but the potential is there.
Absolutely. Definitely a compelling story in a really dynamic global market.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to chew on. In this incredibly competitive global beverage world with tastes changing so fast, can Chagee truly become a dominant international force? Or will their growth hit a ceiling based on their current approach? What other crucial ingredients might they need to add to their recipe to achieve those truly exceptional 10-bagger type returns?
Something to think about.
We encourage you to mull over the analysis, and hey, if Chagee pops up in your area, maybe give it a try yourself. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.